she wild inside emoji, yo, you gotta.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Tinted Visors podcast, coming at you here with Season 2, Episode 4. Today, we're going to be going over some recent news, some trades, some news around the league. We're going to get into some top threes again, sticking with the trend we've had going here in Season 2. And finally, we're going to talk about some RFAs around the league who have still not been signed, predict some contracts, maybe see if some offer sheets will still be signed. That being said, let's get right into things, starting with card of the day. I'll go first. Have an acetate here. It's a clear picks of Bo Horvat, 2013 pick 9 when he was drafted. It's from 21-22 Upper Deck Series 1, just a small little insert they do. But yeah, sweet card. Horvat, as you all know, is my favorite player, so was super glad to pick this up for a reasonable price and love the clear cut cards. They always look really sick.
I love the see-through cards, and a lot of people forget that that pick was picked up from the Corey Schneider trade. So just a fun little tidbit there. For my card, I'm going away from hockey for today and going to football. Don't know much about it, but I do know that this man right here has a great name, Kenny Pickett. Number 250. It's a wild card man. Again, don't know what that means. Don't know if it's any value, but really cool name, great guy. I think he's traded. Don't really follow him too much. I think he's got a new team, and hopefully he does well. Like I said, don't know much about it, but I like the card. I like the guy.
That's awesome. I remember you picking that up. It didn't really hit me at first watching you buy it. I was like, why is he buying a Kenny Pickett card? But, should be pretty obvious in hindsight.
Before we get into the content, obviously some very devastating news coming out of the NHL last night with Johnny Gaudreau's passing in a sort of bicycle car accident. Very tragic news. Obviously, condolences out to his friends and family. Just an insanely skilled player, an incredible guy. He was always, very big in his community, whether it was Calgary, whether it was Columbus, whether it was back home. Had all the tools. He could score. He could, pass the puck. Really thought it was sort of looking out for him in Columbus, getting ready with Monahan, having a full year of, Kent Johnson and Fantilli. I thought they could be really good this year. But yeah, very devastating. Never going to forget that goal against Dallas in Game 7. Just a snipe from the goal line. Just the type of player he was, finding any way to get the puck in the net. One of the more electrifying overtime goals in recent years.
One of the more electrifying players of our generation. Johnny Hockey on the ice was absolutely fantastic to watch. But yeah, watching him that year play on a line with Matthew Tkachuk and Elias Lindholm, they tore up the league. And, it's a division rival, but you have to tip your cap and just sit back and watch the show. So it still doesn't feel real to me. Absolutely devastating news, and thoughts and prayers with the Gaudreau friends and family.
Kind of makes you think that you got to make little smart decisions before you get in your car. But moving on, a trade happened about a week ago, I think. It is Askarov going to the San Jose Sharks. Huge pickup for the Sharks. I think that really accelerates their rebuild. I think, they had obviously, young forward players, young defensive players, and now they get their young goalie for the future. Maybe a little bit of worry with sort of attitude problems. Not sure if that's going to continue throughout his career in San Jose, but he signed a contract extension. I assume he's going to get good amount of chances with their young team, and excited to see them start. Nashville, on the other hand, kind of handicapped, kind of handcuffed, lost a lot of leverage again with requesting a trade, but they did get a decent return. And you kind of look at Allmark trades and Markstrom trades and kind of figure out that goalies don't really bring back, as much as big of a return as you might think. But I think they got a solid return. They can always flip those pieces at the deadline. Would be kind of crazy if Edstrom gets onto his fourth team without even playing a game. But yeah, if Nashville's in a good spot, they could flip those pieces and try to get a rental.
I think Nashville lost all their leverage just going back to the UC Saros extension. I would have liked to see them explore a trade before extending Saros, but you look at the other side of it. After Saros sees that, he could have demanded more money, considering he would have been their only viable option. But yeah, love the pickup for San Jose. This young core is looking incredibly stacked, led by Celebrini, Will Smith, and now Yaroslav Askarov. This Sharks farm system is going to be crazy, and this team is going to look extremely dangerous in about 5 to 6 years. But yeah, Kenny, while we're on the topic of Askarov, if you look at past drafts, the first goalie drafted in like the early 10s of the first round, guys like Spencer Knight, now Askarov as well. Do you think it's worth it to draft a goalie that early, or do you think it's better to wait 4th, 5th round and take a flyer and, a project and try to work on him?
It's tough to say. I think if you pass on Spencer Knight, I think he gets picked, 1 or 2 picks later. Obviously, in hindsight, there's a lot of better players that they could have picked in those spots, and maybe they could be in a different place than they are right now if they'd taken a forward or taken defense. But with any pick, you're taking a risk, and you can find gems of forwards in the fourth round. You can find gems of goalies in the fourth round. I wouldn't give them too much flack for taking a risk and picking a goalie pretty early because you could get some steals. I mean, Fleury went first overall. You see some Wallstead was a first rounders too, and he looks pretty good. So yeah, I wouldn't come down too hard on them taking a risk, but obviously it didn't work out this time. But who knows? It could work out in the future. Going into top three time, we're going to go with top three teams who could challenge for the President's Trophy, as well as the bottom feeders, top three teams who could challenge for a first overall pick. Going with the big dogs first. Pretty basic answers. Dallas, I think they could run it back and be really good this year. Same with the New York Rangers. We could see them win back-to-back President's Trophies. But a little dark horse for me, I'm going to go with my Nashville Predators. Obviously they were the big dogs in free agency, picked up a lot of big players. And, with the Askarov trade, they've got assets now, right? So they can flip those at the deadline. If there is a rental, if there's a good rental on the market, they can pick them up and really challenge for a top spot in their division and hopefully a top spot in the league.
So if Nashville wins the President's Trophy, how many goals is Stamkos scoring in a season?
Stammer, you gotta think he's good for 30 at least. I could see him even getting 35, 40, maybe pushing it a little bit considering his age, but I think he's 35 goal scorer still.
Super safe floor with Stamkos. Hopefully age doesn't catch up to him. But yeah, three solid picks. I think everyone's there's a lot of buzz around Nashville right now, so hopefully they can live up to those expectations. So my three, once again, staying pretty basic. I also do have the Dallas Stars. Finished second in the league last year. Beautiful young core. Like, why not them, right? They only missed by 1 point last year for the President's Trophy. I think they can run it back for sure. Sticking in the West, we have the Edmonton Oilers. Very self-explanatory. Two of the best players in the world. And if they can avoid that slow start they had last year, I think sky's the limit for them. And finally, a bit of a hot take here at the end. As you all know, I've bought into the New Jersey Devils stock. I've totally bought into the hype, so they are going to be my hot take to win the President's Trophy. Like I've mentioned, I think a healthy Jack Hughes this year goes absolutely nuclear. And I think Markstrom is the answer between the pipes for them. I think he's a Vezina candidate in front of a very solid decor that just added Brett Pesce. And I think, Luke Hughes, Simon Nemec, we've talked about Nemec not having, any ice time to work with, but I think they can both take a step and really help out this New Jersey team.
It's a hot take, but I do like that pick. I think New Jersey could have it in them. Do you think, how much do you believe in the President's Trophy curse? Do you think your team is capable of winning and going all the way?
Well, you're talking to a Canucks fan here. For when the Canucks won the President's Trophy, they got swept by the 8th seed. So I think it's blown a bit out of proportion, and because it's such a big thing, I think, maybe it even gets into players' heads. I don't, they should have really good mentals and not let that stuff affect them. But when you look at the track record of it, I guess it's real. I guess you have to say it's real until, a team hopefully this next year is able to break that curse. What do you think?
I mean, like you said, looking back at every team that's won it and they go out relatively early, you kind of got to think the curse is real. I think the last team to do it was Chicago, and that was a long time ago. I mean, talking to a Tampa fan who got swept after winning the President's Trophy. So you got to think, like you said, just something kind of messes with your head. It must be, you must sort of think that you have a bye to at least like the third round or something, and some of those teams don't even make it. So I think the curse is real, and I think you didn't pick the Canucks because if they win, hopefully the curse doesn't follow them.
But yeah, going on the flip side, looking at the bottom feeders in the toilet bowl, teams that can contend for the first overall pick this upcoming year. To start, we're going to go with the obvious, the San Jose Sharks. I think, too many young guys, going to be exciting to watch the kids, but I think they're going to struggle to win games, especially with that decor, like we've mentioned before, who is even on that blue line. Moving over to the Columbus Blue Jackets, another signing one. And I picked this before the news last night. That had no effect on this. But yeah, I just said Monahan signing just does not work out. I just don't think he has it like he used to in his glory days in Calgary. And I think the decor led by Werenski Provorov just isn't enough. And I think Merzlikins does not have a great year. And they also have no forward depth up front. I don't think they'll be scoring many goals this season. And finally, I guess the hottest take would be the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames have, been notorious for being a extremely mid team. So they beat those allegations by being absolutely terrible this upcoming year. I think they're sellers at the deadline after an extremely slow start. Think about Edmonton last year. I think Calgary would have a similar start to that. And I think, they beat the mid allegations by being awful and competing for that first overall pick.
I like those picks. I really do. I got a lot of the same ones. Yeah, I want to preface it by saying I picked Columbus again before the news. Just because they always seem to be near the bottom and they just can't get lucky with the draft lottery. So hopefully that sort of luck can sort of pick up for them. I also have Calgary, but that's not my hottest pick. And Calgary offloaded a lot of pieces without Markstrom, without Mangiapane now. They're just going to be even worse. And then I went with the Pittsburgh Penguins,
Wow.
picking up the first overall. I think they take another step back. Don't think they really offload. I don't think they're going to trade Crosby. Obviously, I don't think they offload any of the big guys. But all you need to do is get down to the sort of fifth or sixth last team in the league, and then with sort of the NHL's history of giving their favorite teams a first overall pick, like your Chicago, like even maybe the New York Rangers a couple years ago. I could see Pittsburgh maybe swooping in, maybe getting some luck
Wow.
and picking up the first overall pick. But that's my hot take. I think Pittsburgh could have it in them.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. I think there's too many vets on that roster for them to be that bad, especially with the direction they're trying to go. But that is a scorching hot take, and it could definitely pay off come the season end.
Moving on, finally, with the pending RFAs, 5 guys who have not yet to sign. Obviously, the list is even longer, but we're going to go with the top 5. And even, we're going to predict, AAV and sort of term, and then even sort of some potential offer sheet teams that could swoop in and try to pick up some players. First one, probably the biggest one on the market still, is Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins. Still not signed, looking for a big payday. Caden, give me the AAV and give me some term of his next contract.
It's tough. You heard about the rumors in arbitration last year. Swayman didn't like how they went, and no one really likes arbitration, so it's tough to see it go to that. There was a rumor he's asking for 10 mil, which seems a little outrageous to me. I don't think any goalie should be being paid that much, but with the cap rising, who knows? But I think 8 by 9 seems, very fair for both sides. He's definitely proven himself. He's the goalie of the future for the Bruins. So 8 years, 9 million, I think would be very good for both sides for Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, I agree. I also heard the 10 million thing, and I just can't sort of agree with the fact that he'd get more than, guys like Vasilevsky, even the guy like Ilya Sorokin. Even though they had off years, they are still amazing goaltenders. So I have a $9 million cap hit as well. And I could see them even going down to 6 years, just because I think if Swayman has to cut off some money, I think he's going to want shorter terms so he can really sort of get that next contract in his prime of 28, 29 years old. But the sticky thing for the Boston Bruins, they only have 8.6 in cap. So it's the two players that came to my mind was Charlie Coyle, who makes around $5 million, and then Andrew Peeke, who's got around a $3 million cap hit. Either one of those guys would have to be on their way out in order to sign James Swayman.
Yeah, I think Coyle makes the most sense to move out with the Lindholm signing. It's pretty crazy that he makes $5 million. He's a third line center. But yeah, it would be hard to find a trade suitor for him. Moving on to the next one. Had a really great year last year. We have Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings. Kenny, give me the dollar value, and do you see a bridge deal or do you see a long-term deal for Raymond here?
I do see them locking him up long term, although the longer it drags out, the more I kind of think it might be a bridge deal. But I do see 8 years, $7.5 to $8 million. I think he's good for 30 goals, at least 30 assists for a 60 to 70 point player. I think his role's diminished a little bit with Patrick Kane coming back, but once Kane moves on, he's going to be their main guy on that right wing 1 slot. I don't see any possible offer sheets just because I think at that dollar value, you're giving up like 2, 3 first round picks, and I don't see any team willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I have him signing long term as well. I have 8 years, 8 million as well. So around the same cap hit as you. But yeah, I think a lot of these guys, just with the cap going up soon, I think they might try to like negotiate a bridge deal, get those few years of, decent cap, and then once the cap is up, you can demand more money. So not sure how much we're going to see that moving forward. But yeah, I think Raymond 8 by 8 is very reasonable, and I think it could age really well if you were to sign it.
Going to his teammate, is it a similar deal for him? You signed Moritz Seider long term as well?
Yeah, I think you have to. He's going to be Detroit's number one on that blue line. I also have 8 by 8 for him. Not sure if that's crazy or not, but I think he's going to be a key piece for them, and I think 8 by 8 is also very reasonable.
I got the exact same 8 by 8. Red Wings have about 17 million cap space, so they could sign them both $8 million each and still be under. And I think, with the loss of Jake Wellman, you kind of have to give Moritz Seider a little more money than you probably could have, just because he's going to have an even bigger role. But, a bone-crushing defenseman who can also put up points. He is, one of a kind, and I would have liked to see them lock them up, last year so that you could be a little more aggressive at the free agency. They did sign Vladimir Tarasenko, but I think if you could have locked them up, maybe you would have had a little more money to go after a guy like Marchessault or maybe even Stamkos. But guess you got to believe in the Yzer plan, and hopefully these guys are signed by the start of camp. Moving on to the second defenseman on this list, coming out of Dallas, Thomas Harley. Great start to the season, slowed down just a little bit in February and March, and then had a bit of quiet playoffs. But Caden, give me your term and value for Thomas Harley.
Yeah, so Dallas, I think they may want to see a little bit more out of him before locking him up, especially with Heiskanen already on the books extended. So to me, I think, 3 years, 6 million is reasonable. But if you also look around the league, Devon Taves, when he was Cale Makar's D partner, signed 7 years at about 7.7 million, I believe. So I think Harley could get something similar to that if he were to sign long term. He's Heiskanen's D partner of the future, and I think they're both going to be studs.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Devon Taves' contract because I have pretty much similar to that. I think it's 6 years, $7 million cap hit for Thomas Harley. Getting to play with Heiskanen, probably a big selling point, and 47 points this past season. I think that's just the beginning from him. He's also great on the power play. One thing I could see an offer sheet potentially from maybe Calgary. They did lose some defensemen in the past couple of seasons. But the one risk with that is that you would give up your first rounder, and Calgary's most likely going to have a high first rounder for them. So if they really believe in him and maybe think he can turn around their team and finish, middle of the pack, maybe they could go after a guy like Thomas Harley.
Good take. I'd love to see some more offer sheets this off season. But you never know. We'll see. Moving on to the next guy, Dawson Mercer from the New Jersey Devils. Kenny, give me the dollar value, give me the years. I'm interested about this one because you could go bridge, you could go long term. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I went middle term, I guess.
Okay.
I went 6 years. It's tough because they have just under 5 million in cap space, and I see him as a $7 million player. So 6x7. He did take a little bit of a step back this year, but the season before that he was really good. And just because of the cap situation they're in, I could see an offer sheet. Kind of ties in with a guy we'll talk about later, but potentially Carolina could be in on him and try to go for an offer sheet. Maybe even a team like Utah, if they're trying to be competitive this year, that first rounder won't mean much to them. And then another team I had with some cap space would be Dallas, but that's assuming maybe they don't sign Thomas Harley. But like I said, I think Mercer could be a really hot commodity for offer sheet in terms of offer sheet players.
Yeah, some great picks there. To me, I think he has to sign a prove-it deal. I did not see enough. I think he's still super young. So with the Devils cap space, I said 2 years, 4 million. I think it's only 2 years, and Mercer gets a chance to prove himself. But yeah, my prediction as well, I think he will sign an offer sheet. And just considering how New Jersey has seemingly mishandled their assets, recently with the Alexander Holtz trade, I think they wouldn't match. I don't think they'd be inclined to match. I don't think they're totally sold on him yet. But yeah, 2 years, 4 million, I think is reasonable for both sides and gives Mercer a chance to show what he showed just a couple seasons ago.
You would match? So $4 million would be around a second round pick, I believe. That's under what Broberg got. So you would take a second over keeping Mercer?
No, I would totally match it personally. I just think I don't know how New Jersey feels about him, and just considering their track record with the Alexander Holtz trade, that's the only thing I'm bringing up, right? But yeah, I just have a funny feeling they wouldn't match and he'd be on his way out. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
That's a fair take. But last guy on the list, and I talked about Carolina just before, but it is Seth Jarvis. I think he goes with a bridge deal, kind of what Nate just did.
Really?
I think Nate just did 2x6. The way that it's, the fact that it's been drawn out so long, I can't really see a long-term deal coming. So I have a 3x6 for Seth Jarvis. Then he can really sort of hit the free agency at 25, 26 years old. But again, I could see an offer sheet coming from, some top teams. Maybe New Jersey goes after him if Carolina goes after Mercer or whatever. Columbus also has a lot of cap space, and they could use him on their top six. Not sure if he'd want to, take a step back and go to a, below average team. But another couple of teams, Calgary and Anaheim, I think they could use him. But we'll see. But yeah, Carolina just over $6 million. So, Caden, what do you think he signs for?
Personally, I think he gets his bag. I think Aho's winger for years here, so I gave him the full 8 years at 7.5 million. I think just the Canes have a knack for signing guys seemingly under market. So 7.5 might be a bit low considering the year he just had, but I think he loves Carolina, loves playing on Aho's wing. So I think those are two big selling points right there. But yeah, we talk about these offer sheets. I would love to see them flying, but realistically speaking, I don't think we're going to see any more this off season. Just with how rare they are and how the GMs in the league tend to act, I don't think we'll see one. Maybe even for a few seasons again. They're pretty spaced out when they do happen, but when they do, it's fireworks, and I think everyone loves to see it.
Do you think offer sheets like now following the Oilers in St. Louis, do you think they now have sort of less of a no kind of tag on them, or do we have we not seen Edmonton's comeback yet?
I hope they have less of a no-no because like going after two RFAs from one team is pretty unheard of, and it's kind of sick from the Blues. So I don't know how that changes perspectives of the GMs. I think a few of them are a bit older, and I don't think anything can change their opinions. Probably pretty stubborn. But I'm excited for the next few years when hopefully some younger GMs get in there, and would like to see like a different style of managing. Hopefully they're a little bit more aggressive.
So when you get in there, you're gonna be throwing offer sheets left, right, and center. Hey,
See, I say that now, and then if I ever do get there, it's you got these relations. Like if you're managing another team, I'm gonna go after all of your players. That's gonna wrap up the content for today, guys. Let us know what you think. Let us know which RFA you think signs first and which one signs for the most amount of money. But yeah, Kenny and I both moving back to school, as you can tell from his setup. And you know what that means? That means it's also almost hockey season, so we're excited going into the season, hoping to keep pumping out the content for you guys until then. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.
They will gun you down. Oh, she wild inside emoji. Oh, you got a frown. Tomato to my haters. Hope you get lost and you